Hello there, people of the internet. So, I've gotten a couple questions about M855A1. That's what the military is currently using. It's an updated version of the M855 cartridge, sort of. And people keep asking me the same questions on repeat. Now, Google would be able to basically answer anything it is that you need, but since people keep asking me, I'm going to go ahead and make a full-fledged video about it. So in this box, this is a PMC bronze box, well, you'll see I have written on it A1. That's because I have 10 rounds of M855A1 in here. Now these are special little rounds. Let me set this down right here. If you look at the projectile, it's very unusual in comparison to what you normally see. So these are 62 grain 5.56 rounds, and they are completely lead-free. So our tip, that right there, is something that you normally see on hunting bullets, but this one is different than a hunting bullet. That tip is actually a hardened steel penetrator. Now that hardened steel penetrator, that's not AP. People keep saying that this ammo is AP. It's not. However, that hardened steel penetrator is going to be better at punching through things than, say, a lead core bullet would. As a matter of fact, the US military is trying to get away from lead. I don't really know why. They say they want it to be more green, but I mean, if you're going to be shooting somebody, who cares what you hit them with? But the concept behind that steel penetrator is that it's going to be better at punching through things, and it is quite good at punching through things. But where this round gets really devastating on soft targets is the copper slug, because that copper slug is more or less a giant hollow point that absolutely fragments and destroys itself whenever it hits a soft target. Whenever this right here smacks into a gelatinous target, you can go watch gel tests basically anywhere on YouTube. As a matter of fact, I think I even did some M855A1 testing on my channel. But if you smack this into gel, that steel penetrator, it just keeps going. It is held into that projectile, of course, but it's not holding all that effectively. So once that copper slug starts getting filled with that gelatinous material, that penetrator just keeps going, and now you have just a giant hollow point, a giant solid copper slug that is running itself through soft tissue at really high speeds, and it is just dramatically devastating whenever it flies apart and dumps all of its energy onto the target. It is really, really good at putting down soft targets. So this ammo is very effective, but what the military is trying to do with it is they're trying to get better effectiveness from their carbines with this particular style of ammo. So the M855, that's going to be your green tip round. Do I have a green tip sitting near me anywhere? No, I do not. But that's going to be your green tip 5.56. I'm sure that we all know what the green tip 5.56 is. Those were designed around a 20-inch barrel. I got with me an M16 right here. This has a 20-inch barrel on it. From a 20-inch barrel, those are supposed to be moving about 3,000 feet per second if we look at proper mil-spec green tip. A lot of stuff on the commercial market is not meeting that specification, so pay attention to what brand it is that you're using and the velocities that you're getting, etc., etc. So they're designed for those longer barrels. Those longer barrels with that velocity, with those projectiles, that's quite effective. The thing is, the United States military ended up doing, it was not a good thing what they did. They started issuing the M4 carbine to the infantry as a mash issue rifle, and they kept the cartridge that was designed to run in a 20-inch barrel, even though the M4 rifle operates with a 14.5-inch barrel. I think the velocity of these green tips coming out of that barrel is somewhere around 2,800 feet per second, give or take. Like I said, depends on brand and whatnot, but you're looking at somewhere around there. And that 200 feet per second, since the 5.56 is so dramatically dependent on velocity, that 200 feet per second dramatically decreases the distances that your rifle is going to be effective at. And that is the big issue with the green tip rounds, and that's one of the main reasons why the United States in 2010 ended up going with this new style of projectile. And they wanted to increase the pressures on these projectiles So in the M4 carbine, you got the same velocities with those 62 grain bullets as the green tip would from that 20-inch barrel. Now, whether or not that is currently the case, I've seen military surplus M855A1 that does not have that increased velocity. I've seen M855A1 that definitely has an increased velocity. I guess it depends on the year that you get it, because the United States military knew that those extra pressures were going to wear out their guns. So I'm pretty sure, this right here is just what I heard through the grapevine, mind you, so I'm not 100% positive about it. I'm pretty sure the United States started manufacturing the M855A1 at those increased pressures, saw just how much it was going to wear out their M4s, and decided to back off the pressure and just go with this much, much better style of bullet inside of a normal pressure 5.56. Because the M855A1, if you get military surplus M855A1 now, it travels at the same velocity from the same barrel lengths as the M855 does. The only difference is this right here is a much better style of bullet whenever it comes to destruction on soft tissue. So the pressure issue really is not that big of a deal. If you do have some of that hotter loaded, higher pressured M855A1, then yes, you are going to wear your barrel out faster. Or you're going to wear your gun out faster, not necessarily your barrel. You're going to wear your gun out faster just because there's more pressure inside of that gun operating the system. The gun's going to operate harder. I can't remember how much more pressure there is. I think there's somewhere around 10,000 PSI. But that gun is going to operate harder because the system is operating harder because there's more gas pressure. A lot of people say that with that increased velocity, you're going to wear out your barrel significantly faster. And I'm not so sure how much I believe that one, just because the M855, the velocity it's reaching, or supposed to reach, is about 3,000 feet per second from an M4 barrel. Now, M193, proper military spec M193 55 grain bullets, those are moving at 3,250 feet per second. And those rounds are not barrel burners. So as far as the barrel life goes, I don't think that you would see all that significant of a diminish in barrel life from velocity. That higher pressure, that might have something to do with increased barrel wear, especially because most of the rifles people shoot these through are a 1-in-7 twist, and that 1-in-7 twist is a really, really fast, aggressive twist for the 55 or for the 5.56 round. So just because of those higher pressures, you might see ever so slightly increased barrel wear, but we're still talking about 10,000 plus rounds, depending on who made your barrel. And I mean, if you're rocking a bottom tier, dirt cheap budget barrel AR, then just regular ammunition wears those things out at like 5,000 rounds. But yeah, that increased pressure is going to wear out the operating system of your gun, but I don't think it's going to wear out the barrel nearly as much as people seem to claim. Of course, the pressure issue is not that much of an issue anymore. With what I've been able to tell, the modern M855A1 does not have increased pressure. I think that was backed off to try and conserve service life with the M4 platforms. Now that being said, there is the issue of these right here damaging feed ramps, and there's some photos that have circled around the internet on the damage done by these, and people say that that right there is evidence. So I'm going to go ahead and start off by saying the United States military uses a special M4 style magazine to properly run these rounds without having any damage done to the feed lips. But that being said, I know people who basically run these rounds exclusively, and they're rocking just standard Stanag mags, like regular old rung-of-the-mill AR mags, and they're not having any issues with these right here tearing up feed lips. I think that the photos of the M855A1 rounds tearing up the inside of an AR is from a bad magazine. I think that the feed lips were pushing this round a little bit farther down than it was supposed to be, because standard AR mags seem to run this just fine. If we were dealing with, think about this. If we were dealing with issues of these smacking into feed lips so hard that they were damaging the metal of the feed lips, that would cause malfunctions. Like, if you look at the photos of where these rounds are supposedly smacking into where they're supposed to be chambering, they're actually underneath the feed lips. If the tip of this round were to smack into the chamber wall of that AR platform repeatedly like that, enough to cause damage to that particular chamber, like how we see in these photos, you would notice that, because that bolt would stop pushing this round into the chamber. That round would be stuck inside of that chamber wall. It would be held up and cause a malfunction. Like, you would notice if that was happening to your rifle. It's not like that happens where the round smacks into the side of that chamber to the point to where it is legitimately causing damage to that chamber, and then it just somehow magically backs off of it, lifts itself up, and then loads properly into the chamber. The dimpling caused by this round hitting the chamber in those photos, that is enough to be able to stop this bullet from chambering. Like that would be a mechanical lock of the tip of your round smacking into that dimple and holding itself there, because it would have to be backed out, lifted up, and then loaded into the chamber. I feel like if you were having issues with this round damaging the actual chamber of your rifle, then you would notice that. You would see that very obviously, because these rounds would not be feeding into your rifle. So if you are feeding these rounds and they're feeding into your rifle regularly and not hanging up inside of your magazine system, then I don't think that you're going to have very much of a problem. So are these rounds bad for your gun? Early rounds that were high pressured, yeah, those are probably going to wear out your gun a little bit faster because they're hotter than they're supposed to be. But if you go out and you get modern M855A1, they don't seem to be higher pressure. And there's plenty of tests out there testing the velocity of military spec M855A1, like proper military surplus stuff. And if you don't have issues with these feeding into your chamber, I don't think that you're going to have any problems running this ammunition. If you really, truly, genuinely feel like you don't want to risk that, then by all means go out and get yourself the same style of mag that the U.S. military is using. This way you can be 100% certain that they're not going to tear up your chamber walls. So all of that being said, hopefully this answered y'all's questions. Thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below is a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off. Have yourself a fantastic day. And I will see you on the next episode. Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.